Hello friends, today we are going to be making a fresh pico de gallo. So for our pico de gallo, today we're going to be using some fresh Roma tomatoes, nice red color. We're going to be using some fresh limes that we're going to be juicing for that. We're going to be using red onions, and we're going to be using fresh cilantro. So for the tomato, the first thing I want to do is I want to take off that core. That core isn't edible. It's not good. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can just slice it off. You do end up wasting a little bit of the tomato. So then you want to cut it in half. I like the seeds in mine. I think that that's where a lot of the flavor of the tomato comes from. But what you're going for is a nice consistent dice. Now, depending on your event, you can de-seed it if you want a little bit cleaner. The way you would de-seed it is you would cut it in half and then cut it in half again into quarters. Open those tomatoes up, and you'd take the front of the knife and you'd almost press down, taking that core out. But again, this is where a lot of the sweetness from the tomato, this is a lot of the tomato flavor, this is where that comes from. So depending upon the event, I opt to leave that in. But now with the nice seeded tomato, you're going to take nice julienne slices, and you're able to make nice clean dices. So I'm going to scoop all those in the bowl, and then we're going to cut our onions. All right, so for our onion, I like to try to get a baseball size onion. All the red onions obviously are all grown differently. Some grow real wide, some grow real big. I'm from Washington State. We love onions there. They're grown in massive softball sizes, all the way down to golf ball sizes. But for this application, I really like a baseball size. We're gonna cut off the root. We're gonna cut off the other side of the root. We're gonna lay it on its end, and then we're gonna cut it in half. After we get in half, we're gonna take off that first layer, that real dry, most of the time it ends up in the bag when you bring it home from the store, but we're gonna take all that off because this is not something that you want in your pico de gallo. You want that nice, juicy, antioxidant red onion. So, but with the flat side down, you're basically going to make some incisions, leaving the onion all the way together. So we're about leaving that much of the onion together, which will be fine later when we get ready to chop it. Also, depending on your crowd of people, hopefully you know if you have some onion people, this is about the dice of my onion. So as you can see, it's about 1/4 inch of onion. I'm gonna flip it around so I can get the top of that onion as well. So then I'm gonna flip it back on its side. So an onion runs like this, all of the layers run like this, and now we've cut this way, so we just need 2 more cuts, and basically we're gonna cut down through those to create our dice. Same thing, about 1/4 inch width apart. Now we're gonna turn that. As we turn it, we're gonna cut through and we have that nice dice. Nice, even, same distance all the way around, 1/4 inch dice. So now we get to the end of the onion and we don't have any more incisions. So now we're gonna take this diced onions and we're gonna add them to our diced tomatoes straight to the mixing bowl. So right now I have some already peeled garlic, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take off these roots. These roots tend to be real coarse, really not edible as well. We don't really want that to end up in our pico. And again, depending on if you have garlic lovers, depending on how much pico you're making, we're using about 8 tomatoes, we're using 1 onion. So we're going to use probably about 8 cloves of garlic. So with the garlic, you're going to do the same kind of motion as the onion. You're going to do nice little incisions, and then you're going to kind of turn it on its side and get one little slice, and then as we cut through it, it'll be that nice dice. So now that we have our chopped garlic, we can add that to our bowl. Just going to scrape that right into the bowl. We are now going to chop fresh cilantro. Most cilantros come in a bunch. This actually came as a cleaned bunch, so it's not so much in a bunch. There's a lot of loose stems. Again, there's a lot of people, depending on the application, will sit and take some of the bulkier stems out. They don't have a lot of flavor in them, in the actual stem. A lot of the flavor actually comes from the leaf. So if you see some of those real bulky stems, take them out. But if you don't want to and you're tight on time, that's okay too. But basically what I want to do is I want to take this big mound of grass here, and I want to just continue to roll it up into a little tight little ball. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow me to give me a surface area on how to cut it and chop it. So I'm now going to take my knife, and I'm just going to, holding my cilantro nice and tight ball, I'm going to cut through it. Keeping it as tight as I can all the way to the end. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 fingers on the top of my knife, and I'm just going to run my knife through it in different directions. I'm going to bring it all back to the center. You don't want to be all over you're not dancing. This isn't a dance. This isn't the salsa. We're making PICO. So you really want to be nice and tight. Going to bring it in, and you're just going to continue to work that center all the way out until you have a nice chopped PICO or chopped cilantro. So the first thing let's add a nice hefty pinch of that cilantro. We're gonna mix that up, get some of those nice colors, get some more of that nice flavor. Again, balance, balance, balance. So the next thing we do is we're gonna take these limes, and I take off the cores and I half it. So now that lime is nice and ready to go right inside to this PICO. So what the lime is going to do, it's going to be that acid that's going to pull those flavors out. So we're going to add 4 halves. We're going to add 2 each limes to the whole PICO. And then we're going to taste it. So now we have a nice balance. We're going to add a little bit of salt to that. And we're going to add just a little bit of pepper. Pico de gallo.